homeless, and now you said you're not quite homeless.
Well, yeah, I started out here about 5 years ago, and I came to the Promised Land, which is about a year program, Christ-oriented, try to help you give your life to the Lord and get delivered and get a new start and get off of drugs or alcohol.
Yeah.
And I did that, and I was there about 5 months, and then I went ahead and ventured out on my own and started living in the woods in tents and making my little wire art. The good Lord led me to North Georgia Diamond Place here, and a lady that owns it had like 10 years recovering alcoholic, so she knew what it was like. And she let me sell my wire art in there, and I got started there and had money to eat on. It's been slow, but I started out, I had just a bicycle, and then I had put a lawn, I'm a small engine mechanic, and I had put a lawnmower motor on a bicycle and had gears. It'd climb about any hill here in Ellijay. Had 18 forward gears on it, and go about 30 miles an hour, and I pulled a child cart and had all my wire art and everything on it.
Oh.
And then they had a car wash here at AutoZone about a year ago. And some of the teenagers from this church were so nice, and I visited the church, and the pastor of the church blessed me with that van.
So tell me where you're living now. What are your housing accommodations now? You said that you kind of moved up.
Well, it's just, I went from a tent in the woods to a tool shed behind somebody's house, so.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and I bought a horse watering trough, 110 gallon, just here recently. I saved up and was able to buy it, and there's a spring of water that comes out of the mountain, and I hooked a funnel to it, and I run it into the tub, and I fill it up, and then I let the sunshine over about 3 days will heat it up, and
then you have hot water.
No, but it about takes your breath away. But here comes the airback helicopter. I always pray for whoever they were really getting it. They're running faster than normal. Somebody in critical condition. Lord, I just ask you to touch whoever's that airback helicopter is picking up. Lord, I ask you to touch them. Lord, especially if they're not saved, Lord, don't let them leave this world lost, Lord. And I pray for Godspeed healing. For it's by your stripes we are healed. In Jesus' name, amen. You know, the majority of the world is, we're so blessed, but the majority of the world is chasing after the mighty dollar, and it don't matter if they have a $250,000 home. They want a bigger one. They might have a Volvo, but they want a Hummer. They're just never satisfied because God made us that way. There'll always be a void in your heart if it ain't filled with Jesus, you know. But I think this COVID-19 is kind of a wake-up call, because there's even in Bible days there were plagues, and there, I don't know if you know it, but I seen on the 700 Club, which that's about the only news I I believe, because other people, other stations don't really tell you everything. But you heard about them locusts in Africa just wiping out billions and billions of locusts, just wiping out people's whole crops. And that's what people depend on to eat and all. But I think it's just God is trying to shake this old nation, and he's been so lenient to let man do what he wants to do. But he comes to a point, I think, when he says, hey, that's enough. And people just need to get those spiritual scales moved from their eyes and seek God. You know, he don't want nobody to go to hell, and I don't either. I know it ain't. I've heard enough about it to know it ain't gonna be no picnic. One time he told a pastor in a church, he says, all hell's just gonna be a big party. And that pastor of that church said, I tell you what then, take and turn the electric stove on, and when it gets red, sit on it and see how much you think about partying. And I said, yeah, right.
So what do you think people can do now to make the world better?
I think they just need to accept God and be saved and put God first. They're already so blessed, but for the majority of people, you know, I think everybody ought to be homeless at one time or another, because they're just not thankful for nothing. If I ever was to find the winning lottery ticket, I don't play them. I'm winning because I ain't gambling, but I would like to start a big homeless, Christian-oriented homeless shelter with a factory that gives people jobs, and would first of all and foremost, it would be Christian owned, and teach people that they need Jesus. You know, if they want their life to success in the world is just having plenty of money and living in a big house. But I tell you, I'm 62 years old, and life goes by so fast. It seems like no time. I was just a little kid. You know, you wonder, man, where did it go? But yeah, I would like to help homeless people though, and have factories where people could work. And at the very foremost and the start of all of it, it would be God-oriented, to tell them about Jesus, because I've been healed of the Lord. I had ulcers so bad I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, and I asked the doctor. I said, well, how bad do I have them? He said, just picture the spots on a Dalmatian dog. And I said, oh boy, that ain't good. But I went to a revival, and they had a prayer line. And I was chewing a search breath mint, and I chewed it up and swallowed it because I didn't want to spit it out, or trying to talk to the evangelist and tell him what was wrong with me. So I hurried up and chewed it up. And when I got up there in front of him, I told him, I says, I got ulcers. He says, well, do you believe that God can heal you of them? And I says, I sure do. And I was going to church. I was living close to the Lord at the time. And he said, well, raise your hands. As soon as I raised my hands, and he anointed and touched me with oil on my forehead, I felt that search in my stomach was burning, and I felt it go away immediately. The burning did.
Wow. I
knew I was healed, because before I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, and I went out and ate Taco Bell, the things that I'd been wanting for so long, and went home and slept like a baby.